the deadly wildfires in the West, where over 4.7 million acres have been scorched so far. In Southern California, firefighters worked tirelessly to protect the historic Mount Wilson Observatory after the Bobcat fire exploded in size, coming within 500 feet of the famed lookout that once housed some of the largest operational telescopes in the world. In Oregon, entire communities have been destroyed. The state has set up its first mobile morgue, bracing for what the governor calls a mass casualty event. And so far, at least 8 people have been killed by the flames and at least 16 are missing. CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti reports from what is left of the town of Talent, Oregon.
More than a week after violent wind-driven wildfires rip through southeastern Oregon, loved ones are holding out hope.
If anybody could survive this, he could.
Scott Fogarty hasn't heard from his friend George Attia since flames destroyed his house and shop in the remote forest town of Lyons.
Both of his trucks were still there, which indicates that he did not get in his car and flee, get in his truck and flee. But both structures were burned to the ground.
Attia is one of more than a dozen people search crews have been looking for.
These are tough times for us, too.
Oregon State Police Captain Tim Fox says the fires moved through communities so quickly, the full scope of devastation is still not clear. A mobile morgue has been set up in order to handle the difficult task of identifying remains.
Law enforcement, medical professionals, we're not immune. We know that we have a job to do, and we're going to do that job so that we can get the families back reunited and so that they know that their loved ones who are lost are at least being able to be put to rest.
Thousands of homes have been decimated.
A lot of people didn't have time to get out.
Aubrey Laughlin managed to escape the city of Talent with her 2 children after a friend sent her this picture of a huge smoke cloud heading her way.
The loss is a community right now. It's a whole community.
Do you think Talent will ever rebuild?
I do. I definitely do. I've already heard people saying, we're going to make this bigger and better.
And Jonathan joins us now with more. I know you've been talking to folks, Jonathan, who are optimistic, talking about rebuilding, talking about the future. I also know that you've spoken to people who say that this may be it for them, that they're going to move out of the state. So dry weather mixed with strong winds drove several of these wildfires into towns and into these neighborhoods. And as we saw, it reduced some of these communities to rubble. Given that you've seen people and talked to people who are optimistic, what is the good news for them?
The good news, if there is any, the Alameda fire where we are stands at 100% containment. That's not to say that there isn't a lot of firefighting activity going on. The concern still remains those hot spots. And with the wind continuing to be in the forecast, that could, of course, kick up more flames. Though where we are in Tenet, and as you clearly saw in our piece there really isn't much left to burn. The focus right now, of course, rebuilding and looking to the future, but that is very far off in the future. Immediately, speaking what we're seeing here on the ground, the search crews that have been going out with cadaver dogs looking for anybody that may not have made it out alive. When this fire ripped through, it did so quickly, driven by high winds, that there wasn't time for emergency evacuations. And we heard from Aubrey in our piece. She was here in her home watching that big plume of smoke as she went door to door getting people out. But of course, when we're talking about thousands of people, neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, not everybody got the message. So that search continues on this morning. There is an information center that has been set up so that family members can come in and give their DNA, which would help identify any remains if they are in fact found. When we're talking about the number of missing, the number here in Oregon has been fluctuating quite a bit. And that's because the reporting is mainly done from families who are calling in who haven't been able to get in touch with their loved ones. But the reality is where we are right now in this town, a big migrant population, officials telling us those people may be afraid to come forward and report anybody missing. And there's also a very big elderly population here, people who may not have any family members to be checking in on them. So the concern of the missing, of that number increasing, is very real today. I mean, and you see what we're dealing with here. This was an historic neighborhood. This home was over 100 years old. Neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, looks just like this. We're talking about thousands of homes in just this region that were destroyed when this fire came through. So the hope is to rebuild, but the reality is it's going to take many years, and it's never going to be the same.
Yeah, well, I think about the town of Paradise, in California, and it really, now that it's being threatened again, but it really only just started to rebuild, and it's been a few years for them. There is sort of this thick black smoke that's still hanging over the area. I'm wondering if that's having an impact on the ability to search for survivors or, sadly, remains.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, in the days after this fire ripped through here a week ago, it was so thick with smoke that you really couldn't see that far in front of you. The wind and the weather has changed quite a bit, and that smoke has lifted, although you still have the smell. So while visibility is fine, and while rescuers are able to go out and conduct their what are now searches, they're really being hampered by the health implications here. It smells at times like you're standing in front of a campfire. And we've heard some of the numbers from, the governor over in California, Governor Newsom, saying that it's the equivalent of smoking 400 cigarettes a day. Here in Oregon, we're hearing reports of 1 out of every 10 visits to the ER are people going in because of smoke inhalation from the wildfires. So it's really the health concerns that continue on today. I mean, we're talking about first responders that have been here for a week, that will be here for weeks to come, working around the clock. And then, of course, all those people that evacuated, they didn't go that far. Many of them are in sites nearby. There is a fairground here, and they are living and breathing this every day as well. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as we continue our coverage here.
All right, Jonathan, thank you so much.
Thank you.